but it's really important for me to get a sense of you, who you are. I see parents here, I see some of the youth here. So are you guys all from Oakland?
No.
No. Okay. So where are you from?
San Francisco.
Oh, all of you are from San Jose?
No.
Okay, how many of you are from San Jose? That looks really small. You guys just said San Jose. How many of you from Oakland? Anyone from San Francisco? Okay. How many of you know who I am? That's just so that I know how to introduce. Okay. Have you guys, you came to UOTY, right? Some of you guys? Okay, so my name is Baqasis. I have come to teach in San Francisco about a year ago, I think, or 2 years. You may have seen me doing gubayas in different places. Do you guys see me on the internet, any of you? No? Good. I really don't like seeing myself on the internet, honestly speaking. One of the things that we have is a program called UOTY, which is United Orthodox Tewahedo Youth. UOTY is a group that was formed by youth. It wasn't formed by me as an adult. I just started to help them. And it's basically the idea that the kids that have Orthodox Tewahedo faith in common, meaning both the Ethiopian and the Eritrean churches, should, find a way to come together. And so about 5 years ago, the youth started to gather, and they needed a teacher, and they invited me to come teach. And the first gathering was in St. Louis, Missouri. The second was in Minnesota. The third was in Kansas City. The fourth was in Denver. The fifth one, again, was in Kansas City. The sixth one will be in Nashville, Tennessee, coming up. And so in all of those meetings, what we learned was that you guys are just as capable of sustaining your faith and participating in the church as adults. It's equally important. And that if we allow you guys to really get together and ask questions and to practice your faith, it actually results in a lot of good things happening in the church. So we've had a lot of those gubayas. There are a lot of gubayas that are done in conjunction with other organizations. YOTC is Young Orthodox Tewahedo Youth Christians in Washington, D.C. And D.C. has a lot of Ethiopians, so by itself it's a city. And they do a lot of good work. They created a CD, Kesis Abai, coordinated to use the Zema for St. Yared songs and bring it into English. And of course you've heard, have you heard Exaria Yilma's songs? Exaria songs. So Exaria also is doing a lot in terms of translating her father's Zamari Yilma's Zamari Yilma's Mezmor into English and singing it the same way that he wrote it. And so then there's Deacon Gregorios, Baqasis Dejeni's son, is teaching and preaching. Deacon Ephraim, Deacon Dawit. So everybody's really trying to do a lot in English. My background's a little bit different than theirs. They're born Ethiopian, I'm born American. But when I was like 18, I came to the Ethiopian church, so I'm not 18 anymore, as you can imagine. Don't ask me how old I am. Of course, my wife is Ethiopian, my children, some of them were born there. I lived there for several years. I worked in the theological college for a while there. I served as a deacon, served as a priest. I think that one of the things that is different is I have a different perspective on American culture and the Ethiopian church, I don't look at the Ethiopian church as only being for Ethiopians. And I think that that is a perspective that you guys should also embrace and understand. And I think that if we start to learn this weekend, it would be helpful. One thing I just remembered was to shut off my ringer on my phone, so I'm going to ask you guys to do the same, because it can be disruptive. And people call at all times, right? 8 o'clock is the prime time for calls. Everybody calls. So that's a little bit about me. I think that that perspective is different. I have 3 master's degrees. One of my master's degrees is in theology. One of my master's degrees is in teaching. And one of them is in school administration. I was a school principal for many years. And I serve the church full-time now. Basically working with youth around the country. Last week I was in Atlanta. The week before that I was in Memphis. The week before that I was in Portland. 2 weeks before I could just go on. I don't really get a chance to rest. But my home base is Kansas City right now. And it's right in the center of the country, which is great for me to get around. So that's a little bit about me. And so this weekend, the idea is to really help you guys to get started with your own gouvernements, to take leadership, to address some of the issues that are important to you. So today we'll have a sermon today, a lesson today. Tomorrow we'll be doing some discussions. And a big part of our UOTY gouvernements is discussion groups. So we encourage discussion. I think the challenge is age groups. And so we have broken you guys up into different age groups because everything is not relevant to everyone, depending on age. And then after we have that, in between, we'll have some more lessons. And then on Sunday, we have our last session, which will be a panel discussion with parents and the youth. Okay? So that gives you kind of an overview of what we have planned. But what I always like to do is ask you, what do you want to learn? Because I think that often that's what we miss, right? So what are you guys interested in? What are some of the questions you have that you might want me to try and address? This is a great chance to add those things. Don't worry, I know about wait time. I'm giving you time to think. So what are some of the things or questions that you might want to make sure that I address while I'm here? Things you have always wanted to learn about your church, but it was never convenient for you to ask those questions. Yes? You can say it.
Hello, Betsy. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
We're
for
really
having me.
excited to have you. One of my questions is, a lot of the young adults here would like to create something like UOTY or something that draws in the youth, but oftentimes what we think we're lacking is just like, DC or Kansas, they have youth, they have Dakwon Gorgorios, or they have Dakwon Dawis, and we don't necessarily, we feel like we have somebody like that who can teach us or we can follow, and then we don't feel like we're adequate enough to be hosting these or doing it on our own. So how do we connect with the resources to be able to do these when you guys are not so readily available?
Thank you. Good question.
And address that for you guys. Other questions, other big ideas, things that are looming in your minds that you want to try and address. You guys don't have any questions about church? Okay. So let me see. Let me see another way. Teacher technique. Better than me asking you to ask me questions. So let's see what you know about the church. What is Sinatra Threat? Sinafitret. No, but you know about free will? She's like sinking down. Don't sink down. It's okay. Look, the whole, I think the first thing that we can do to start having rubayes is you have to get over the fear of being wrong. One of the biggest problems in our church is everybody's accusing each other of wrong. That's a big problem. Making mistakes is the way we learn. And so when I ask somebody a question about the church, if you give me the wrong answer, it teaches me your train of thought. And then I can understand where the problem is. But and that's why teachers ask questions all the time. So Sinafitret means the beauty of creation. It is one of the catechisms of the church. A catechism is the type of instruction that's used for unbaptized people. It's a required knowledge, okay? So do you guys know anything about that? Yeah? Yes, tell me a little bit about it. Yeah, you said yes.
They were made in 6 days. The last day was Saturday, and that was the day God rested, and God rested. God started on Sunday, he rested on Saturday. There were 22. I can't name all of them. Yeah.
Excellent. So that's like basic knowledge. I think he's clapping. So clap for him. Positive reinforcement is good, right? Positive reinforcement is good. What is original sin? What's original sin?
Breaking the law.
Breaking the law.
It's breaking the law, okay. Other ideas? What do you think original sin is all about? Yes, in the back. Yep. It's what? Disobeying God. Okay, in the front? You had your hand up?
It's the first sin committed by Adam and Eve, which led to the corruption of humans.
That led to what?
The corruption of humans.
Led to the corruption of humans. Good. Yes.
Disobeying the 10 Commandments.
Okay, so it's to disobey the 10 Commandments. Good. Anyone else? Why doesn't St. Mary have original sin? Why doesn't St. Mary have original sin? Yep.
Because she's a mother.
Okay. Those are getting hard, right? Figured I'd increase the intensity of the questions. Oh, that's a schedule. So some of what helps us to stay in the church after we get to a certain age is to really understand the significance of why the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church doctrine, dogma, canona, why these are so special. You know, I'm sure that you guys grew up in an Ethiopian household, so you know everything in Ethiopia is good, right?
No.
Everything, right? The food, the drink, the people. If your parents are Ethiopian, they tell you God created Ethiopia. He loves Ethiopia, right? Everything is good in Ethiopia. But even when we hear it in the church, sometimes we start to feel like that's just them propagandizing Ethiopia. But the perspective that we want to gain when we first start to really have these rubayes is to really understand that there can't be multiple truths, right? In order for something to be true, there has to be one truth. Is that correct or not?
Yes.
So therefore, we have to be able to look at what our church teaches and figure out whether or not it's true. And look at what another church teaches and figure out whether or not it is true. And so the way that we want to start to gather is in a quest for truth. I think when our youth are gathering and asking these kinds of questions, then you don't really need to have a Deacon Dawud or a Kesa Sefer or a Deacon Gregorios present to teach you. But what you need is to have a mind to think critically about the teachings of the church. Now, the word critically is often looked at as a bad word, right? Criticize is a bad thing. When we say critical thinking about the church, I don't mean to condemn or to criticize or speak negatively. What I mean is to analyze and to understand the church's teaching piece by piece and how it is connected. In particular, what's important to you is how is it connected to your life? That's the key. Because if the teachings of the church are not connected to your life, if you don't understand why original sin is important to you and how that's related to the everyday life of the church, then it's insignificant. You'll just go on. The first thing I will teach you is that religion is not philosophy. Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church teaching is not a philosophy for life that anybody can just adopt. The church's teaching is not about philosophy. It's not an ideology. It is a way of life. And so you don't have to be able to philosophize in order to understand that there's a way of life that is pleasing to God and there's a way of life that is not pleasing to God. Does that take philosophy?
No.
It's as simple as that. And I like to put things in very simple terms. There's a way of life that pleases God, and there's a way of life that doesn't please God. That way of life that pleases God is found in the teaching of the Ethiopian church. I can guarantee you that. That we can live a life that is pleasing to God, and each of us should be concerned about this. Because one of the 5 pillars of mystery of the church is Mystera Tensa Mutan. Mystera Tensa Mutan is about the resurrection of the dead. It doesn't matter if you are a parent or a child, the resurrection day is really important to you. If you're parents, it's a resurrection day is important to you because on that day you get judged. If you're a child, the resurrection day is important to you because on that day you get judged. But guess what? Your parents can't help you on resurrection day. And parents, guess what? You can't help your children on judgment day. So when the judgment day comes, parents will be standing next to their children, children will be standing next to their parents, and everybody will be judged by God according to their faith and their works. So therefore, this day becomes extremely important to everyone. But it's different than it is now, right? On that day, parents will not be able to help their children. Mothers will not be able to help their daughters. You can't speak up to God and ask. There'll be no more praying for your children on that day. And so, it is important beforehand to know how to please God. This is what Christianity has been about for centuries. For thousands of years, Christianity has been about the fact that there will be a judgment day and that everybody, whether they're parents or children, they have to be able to please God on that day. That their lives should be pleasing to God. But most people have made Christianity into what? Philosophy. Christianity is not philosophy. Christianity is a way of life that is pleasing to God. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
What is Christianity?
A way of pleasing God.
A way of life that is pleasing to God. Christianity is what?
A way of life that pleases God.
Is your way of life pleasing to God right now?
Yes. Yep.
Is your way of life pleasing to God right now? I don't expect you to give me an answer. I don't expect you to give me an answer. What I expect you to do is think about it. Now, parents, we should be thinking about this because we're closer. to the time, right? They're further away. Because the judgment day comes when we leave this world, we enter into a place of rest. For those of us who are older, that time is coming soon. For those of you who are younger, by God's grace, He'll extend your days so that you have more time. But we can start today with some basic teachings. So always, it's important to begin with the church's basic, what we call dogmatic theology. A